It began like any other morning in our quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where lawns are perfectly manicured and the sidewalks are always swept clean. Our home, modest yet welcoming, sat tucked between others that all seemed to follow the same unspoken rules. We had always respected the neighborhood norms, never imagining that the very organization meant to preserve order could become a source of fear. My autistic son, a gentle and brilliant child with an extraordinary sense of justice, had no idea that today would test him in ways no child should ever face. The first warning came in the form of a letter slipped under our front door. Its official seal, bold and commanding, carried an unmistakable tone of authority. The HOA claimed there were violations, minor, almost laughable infractions, yet the letter hinted at fines and escalating consequences. To any ordinary family, it would seem trivial, but for us, it was personal. Every word seemed calculated to intimidate, to make us feel unwelcome in the very home we had fought so hard to create. Over the next few days, the tension grew. The HOA representatives began appearing in the neighborhood, walking the streets with a sense of entitlement, as though the community belonged to them alone. Their eyes scanned our property with meticulous scrutiny, noting every imperfection. My son watched quietly from the window, his gaze sharp, almost as if he could see through their facades. There was a quiet intensity about him, a patience and awareness that often went unnoticed. He sensed the injustice in a way that transcended words. Then the letters multiplied. Notices of violations, demands for immediate compliance, threats of penalties that seemed disproportionate to the supposed infractions. It became clear that this was not about rules or regulations. It was about control. The HOA wanted to assert dominance, to remind us that they could dictate our lives. And that was when my son, usually soft-spoken and reserved, began to change. There was a newfound determination in him, a readiness to confront the situation head-on, even if the world seemed stacked against him. As the days progressed, our community witnessed the subtle beginnings of a standoff. Neighbors who once exchanged polite greetings now offered sympathetic glances. They had seen the HOA's tactics before, the way they leaned on authority and procedure to intimidate residents into compliance. But none had witnessed what was about to unfold. My autistic son stepping forward with a courage and clarity that would leave even the most hardened HOA official speechless. The day of confrontation arrived with an air of tension so thick it seemed to press down on every surface of our home. The HOA arrived, not with smiles or polite discussion, but with an unmistakable aura of confrontation. Their vehicles lined the street, and their presence felt orchestrated, almost theatrical. Their intention was clear, to assert dominance and make us feel small. But what they did not anticipate was the quiet storm standing beside me. My son, small in stature but monumental in resolve, positioned himself with unwavering poise. He stood silently, his eyes fixed on the approaching officials. There were no words, no raised voices, just the unwavering presence of someone who understood what was at stake. The HOA began their inspection, pointing out supposed infractions, their voices sharp and condescending. Yet my son did not flinch. Each time they spoke, he maintained eye contact, unshaken, as though the weight of their authority had no bearing on him. In a neighborhood accustomed to fear and compliance, this was unprecedented. Neighbors began to gather, drawn by the unusual scene unfolding before them. They watched, some in disbelief, as the HOA realized that their intimidation tactics were ineffective. My son's calm defiance challenged the very foundation of their power. With each step they took toward coercion, he met them with a silent resilience that seemed to amplify the scrutiny of every witness. It became clear that the real confrontation was not just about property rules, but about courage, perception, and the underestimated strength of those they sought to suppress. The atmosphere grew tense. the air charged with anticipation, each moment stretched, heavy with expectation, as the HOA struggled to regain control of a situation that had slipped from their grasp. My son, unwavering, embodied a quiet authority that spoke louder than any argument or official document. It was a confrontation defined not by words but by presence, by principle, and by the unshakable certainty that injustice would not go unchallenged. By the end of the day, the HOA retreated, their confidence shaken, their authority questioned by the one person they had dismissed as powerless. The neighborhood had witnessed something extraordinary, the courage of a child standing up to an institution that many adults would fear to face. My son's resolve became a symbol of quiet resistance, a reminder that strength does not always roar. It often stands silently, unyielding, and resolute. In the days following the confrontation, the neighborhood buzzed with quiet conversations and shared amazement. Residents spoke of the courage displayed, of the unprecedented defiance that had turned the tables on the HOA. My son returned to his routines, calm and focused, as if the confrontation had been another challenge to overcome, rather than a monumental act of bravery. Yet the impact was undeniable. The HOA, once confident and domineering, became cautious, hesitant to overreach again. The experience left an indelible mark on our family. It reminded us that courage does not always come in expected forms. It can emerge in quiet, thoughtful acts of defiance, in the steady gaze of someone who refuses to be intimidated. For my son, it was a lesson in self-advocacy, a demonstration of his ability to navigate a world that often misunderstands him. For us, it was a reaffirmation of the values we hold dear: integrity, resilience, and the unwavering belief that fairness must be defended. Neighbors began to approach us, sharing their own experiences with HOA conflicts, grateful to see someone, especially a child, stand up to what had long been perceived as untouchable authority. The story spread throughout the community, inspiring discussions and, in some cases, challenging the rigid enforcement of rules that had often seemed arbitrary. What began as a personal struggle became a symbol of empowerment, a lesson in the unexpected ways courage can manifest. Looking back, the confrontation was more than a dispute over property or compliance. It was a testament to the strength of character, to the ability to face intimidation with dignity and resilience. My autistic son, often underestimated by those who do not understand him, had demonstrated a level of bravery that resonated far beyond the boundaries of our street. It was a story of defiance, of standing up for what is right, and of proving that even the smallest voice can challenge the loudest authority when guided by conviction. In the end, the HOA learned a lesson in humility. The neighborhood gained a renewed sense of community, and we discover the extraordinary power of courage in its most unexpected form. My son, quiet yet unyielding, had shown that true strength does not always announce itself. It simply stands firm, waits, and ultimately changes everything.